Today is not a modification video, it's actually a maintenance type. So, on the N55, there's a couple things that normally go on it, and that is the electric water pump, engine coolant thermostat, and I'm also taking the precaution when I go to a bigger turbo to actually delete one of the M Sport thermostats that connects to the oil cooler and actually put like just a regular non-M Sport one because I've heard it gets in the way. Mainly the thermostat that's over here. One thing that I find out later on in the video is that it isn't just as simple as deleting some lines in some thermostats. It's actually a lot more complex than that. I'm genuinely not excited about this because I know exactly what I have to do. The thermostat, unfortunately, I'm pretty certain I'm gonna have to take out all of this. Thankfully, I have to do an oil change as well, so I'm gonna just take off the oil lines too at this point, so that way it's easier for me to put in everything again. But yeah, it's not gonna be fun on that part because let me show you where the thermostat is. Firstly, you have the oil temp sensor that's here. You have the coolant temp sensor that's here, and I have actually already replaced that, so that's a +1 there. But the thermostat is actually in between all of that. Yep, what you're actually seeing is the engine coolant thermostat. It is in the worst spot possible, but it is doable. You know, theoretically, I was thinking maybe I could just take out the entire under tray and just replace everything like that. Yeah, I don't think that's happening. I think I legitimately have to take off everything. And at this point, since I already ordered the non-M Sport oil cooler lines, I am just gonna take off everything again. So I'll say this one last thing because I'm actually, like, you guys have seen me take all this stuff apart, especially when I did the radiator or the CSF radiator install. With that being said, I'm gonna get to that and then I'll just pick this camera up when I get to the point of actually uninstalling them and reinstalling them. So when I was first doing the radiator, I kind of wish I just took the entire side over here out because so far, the more, obviously everyone knows the more stuff you take out, the better. Is it gonna suck to put back in? Of course, but it sucks worse to struggles. So I'm well aware this is the worst camera angle possible, but as of this point, I'm taking off extra coolant hoses and also detaching any oil lines that were attached to the oil filter housing unit to the oil coolers. It makes it so much easier, again, to take off more stuff than you need to then just be able to put it back on and get the job done. Now, one thing to know, if you are going to take off this oil cooler thermostat that's right here, the big old gray thing, you do indeed have to take off the wheel liner from the passenger side in order to get to 2 screws. I know it seems stupid, but trust me, you have to do it. Wheel liner's out, and there is the bolt and one of the thermostats. I've made a mess. I think I have finally gotten to the part where I can take out the thermostat, and I'm going to do that and film it this way, the best way. There we go, guys. This is where the coolant thermostat is. It's obviously this hose is attached to it, but this is the thermostat here. I should have changed it out when I did all this, but let's just say it, whatever, okay? So this is the thermostat. This is the water pump. The water pump is bolted in there, so I would have to go underneath and do everything, but as you can see, the coolant's still draining and everything. So I'm gonna probably just let the whole coolant thing just go. But something I want to show you guys, because this, you know, I've watched Keys Motorsports on how to put this radiator in, and they did it with a breeze, obviously because it's YouTube and stuff, but this is actually how messed up I did the back. Like, all that is broken fin. Well, I wouldn't say broken, but it's definitely heavily damaged. Matter of fact, it's still even better than the OEM one, so I don't regret it, but let's just say that it sucks to get in and sucks even worse to get out. So it's time to remove any remaining hoses from the thermostat and actually take it out and inspect it. Sheesh. So, let's just sit down together and actually go through this. This is a really bad angle again, I'm so sorry. So you have the coolant thermostat. This guy here is obviously going to the radiator. So this is, I believe, what is going towards the turbo This one is towards the cylinder block or the cylinder head, and then this one is for, I think, the oil to the actual car. So essentially what this is doing is that all this is electronic. Obviously you can see the sensor little plug-in here is here. There's a little clamp in here. It's very, very dark. That little clamp has stayed open. Essentially this is supposed to make sure that the coolant, if it's too hot, it opens up so it passes through to the radiator to get cooled down. But since this is left open, not necessarily it's the worst thing in the world because it means that the coolant's still flowing. It's just taking a boatload of time to actually heat up, which is the reason why I'm having basically no heat in the cabin of the car. Now we're gonna use a Torx 12, this little guy, and we're gonna get out the water pump. If you've done this before, turning a water pump on an N55, don't tell me you told yourself so or whatever, okay? From somebody that's never done this before, what I have learned is that in order to do an engine coolant thermostat, I wouldn't say it's like the hardest thing in the world. It's definitely doable. It sucks that you have to take out the radiator again. But in order to take out the water pump, you are going to have to take off the subframe. Okay, again, this is, if you keep watching the video, you'll soon realize that I end up realizing there are ways around it. And you don't actually have to take off the subframe. You just have to be very, very intricate with aiming your socket and wrench, and then you should be able to get it off. This screw is the top portion of the water pump. Then there's two bolts attached to the actual engine block, but those guys don't have enough clearance to get out unless the subframe is down. I'm not kidding. If I were to turn my thumb to vertical, that's maybe half an inch worth of space to clear. But you see, these are the two bolts, so, oh my god. I actually found a way that you can get to the bottom screws of the water pump without removing the subframe. It's very, very tricky. I'd say the skinnier you are, the better. I'm not gonna say necessarily you can get it with, you know, your fingers, because it's definitely not really that easy. So here we are. So I'm gonna try and get this as best as possible. This light's gonna be very, very bright. But that's the turbo. That is part of the water pump. The water pump is then right in there. The bottom two screws are literally right there. So there is a little space between the subframe and what I think is the iDrive system in the front here. Basically whatever's underneath the axles and everything. And there's enough clearance to get at least the first screw that is more towards the transmission. And then actually just barely enough to get the one that is closer to the radiator. So long story short, I'm incredibly glad I didn't have to drop the subframe. I can see why people who actually want to go bigger turbos, when they drop the subframe, they change out the water pump, because it's literally right next to it, and it's actually, no, believe it or not, way easier to again have more stuff removed to then get access to the other things that you need to do behind it. So with me filming this, it took probably about a day and a half to do. Now if you're doing it yourself, you're probably not filming yourself, so give or take, it's gonna be probably about a 7-hour with full install of full dismantling and reconstructing everything again. Where'd the screw go? Oh, I got the screw. Oh, bet. Okay, there's slightly enough room. Like you're gonna be like this the entire time. That's the second screw. First screw is right here. That guy has to come off. That's for the one that I was talking about, that's more towards the passenger side, and then this one that's behind the axle. Yeah, that one's gotta okay, let's do this. Probably about to be so much cooler that's about to pop off right now. Guarantee it. Ugh, where's the screw for this one? I hope it's facing down at least. Okay, it is. I think you can actually get it. Now, I'm not gonna lie. To get the clamps that were actually holding on the hoses to the water pump, they were incredibly difficult to get off. And that is no joke, no way around it. I got it. I actually got it. There's a bunch of coolant on the ground right now. But that side that had the turbo, I had to stick carefully a screwdriver in there. And now, I should be able to just have this thing come out. It's gonna have a big hose to it, but this is the water pump. Holy crap. Whew. So the water pump is now in. It's all screwed in, so the first nut up here, that one should be, I think it's like 10 foot-pounds of torque, and then these guys down here should be 25. You guys, realistically, you don't actually gotta do that. I mean, is it safe to? Yeah, but if you just tighten it, I'd say fairly tight, you're gonna get it. Like 25 foot-pounds of torque, let alone 10 foot-pounds of torque is nothing. That's basically just saying it's very tight. What the next plans are is to put that thermostat in and then basically button everything up. So again, here I am installing the new coolant thermostat. Let me just start off by saying that installing these were actually a breeze. It was way easier to install these things than to actually take them out, which I guess theoretically that makes sense because after 10 years, things start to just stick to each other. So this is almost like putting a really dry hand into a latex glove. It was very easy. Perfect. And there is the coolant thermostat. Now about the M Sport oil thermostat. I was in preparation to delete the M Sport thermostats. Big problem there. If you do that, guess what's gonna happen? A whole bunch of codes are going to end up being thrown. On a couple other things. It's not as simple as just deleting these lines and deleting that thermostat over there just to go directly to the oil cooler. This is an auxiliary water pump that has to go back. I just was debating on capping that too because it went to the original M Sport thermostat over there too. So although I'll have to wait for the non-M Sport oil cooler lines, let's just put back the original ones and then wait for the new ones to come when the big boost kit comes in. It's officially time to put back the coolant. I'm actually going to do an oil change as well because I'm due for one of those. So I'm actually kind of hoping, I don't see anything really too scary with that. I shouldn't, but there's always that possibility. Yeah, I mean, everything actually looks better than what it did. The only thing I can't figure out is why this is not, I don't think really how it should be, but dude, whatever, it works, and that's all that matters. Let's hope that there's no leaks. I mean, I'm pretty confident that there's not. A lot of things were missing yesterday, and now they're not, so I'm pretty confident. So first things first, you never want to just start the car, right? Like obviously I did that when I did the radiator. Huge mistake. So what I'm gonna do instead, I'm just gonna simply turn on the ignition. Okay, I think it should be all right. Shut it off. That sounded amazing. Just doing that should have had a leak if there was anything, and I am not seeing anything on the ground. I'm not seeing anything up top. I don't see any coolant. This thing definitely needs to get washed because like of the oil residue and everything like that, but I think we got ourselves a win. Now the coolant, when the engine does get warm, that's this thing we're gonna have to fill up, and obviously when the car's level, because the car's not level yet, it's still in the ramps. So let's do that. Everything seems to be good. It's running great. Let's take this thing off the ramp, see if it's all good. Everything seems good. Now, it isn't a typically cold day, so theoretically, if I were to turn the heat up all the way now, it's at 84, I should be able to feel heat within like probably 5 minutes rather than it being like 30. It's not getting warm. Oh God. Okay, another problem. If it's not the heater core, depending on how much the heater core is, and I take this dashboard all apart, and I replace the heater core, and it still doesn't work,
This is the reason why, if you do not physically have if this is not meant for racing or a track car, and you upgrade to the CSF racing radiator, common sense here. It is going to drop temperatures dramatically. And you are witnessing it here in this video. It's not a bad thing. Actually, especially if you're racing or if you do track time, it's not a bad thing. But if you're daily use, it's not great. Unless you have a bigger, more aggressive turbo and a better tune. For a casual off-the-shelf everything, it ain't it.
At the end of the day, I changed the water pump and thermostat because they gave me the death codes. And for anybody that knows the death codes, if you know, you know. So it turns out, it started getting a little bit warm. I wouldn't say like 84 degrees warm, but as long as it's starting to get warm, that's all that really matters to me, because that means it is doing something. Again, if you're daily driving this and you're not taking it to a track, it's best to just not get the CSF radiator. Like, you're seeing it live without an upgraded turbo that it takes a very long time for the car to warm up. It dramatically, and does work, it dramatically drops temperatures. I mean, it's good and bad. With that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Holy crap, I never want to do that one again. All right, subscribe if you're new. Goodbye.